I had a student the other night, and he went up to this woman, and she just started screaming at him. She said, "You're a fuck." She's like, I'm like, that's what she said? She began yelling a homophobic slur at him repeatedly, and he's like, that shook me. I'm like, that would have made me laugh my ass off. If somebody began saying that, I'd be like, that is hilarious. You know, because back in the day, somebody would say something like that to me, they'd be like, you're short, or you're ugly, or you're too old, or whatever. And I'd be like, am I? Am I ugly? Am I short? Am I dumb? Am I stupid? Now I'm like, okay, cool. Like I literally, and what does this come down to? I value my own opinion of myself more highly than others. And I'll tell you, in order to arrive at that, I think that it's on a certain level, it's a function of age. How many people here are over 30? How many people here are over 35? How many people are over 40? Yeah, we've all heard that old aphorism. When you're young, you care what people think about you. When you're middle-aged, you don't care what people think about you. When you're elderly, you realize nobody gave a fuck about you the entire time. Most people that you see out when you go out at night, they're thinking the exact same thing you are. Do I look cool? Do I look pretty? Do I look attractive? Are people looking at me and thinking X, Y, Z? They're all wrapped up in their own self-image. It's an internal focus it's crazy, because when your energy heightens and your intellect is just focused on trying to figure it out, it can start to turn on itself. And when that happens, it can be quite discomforting for a lot of people. It's like your intellect is just going around and around and chewing its own tail. And in order to transcend that, you've got to go to a higher level of energy. You can't solve your problems from the same level that they originated at. And when you get to even higher levels of energy, you get to intuition and allowing that, you get to even higher levels of energy, it becomes a sort of universal oneness, and that's what we call transcendence. I'm not here to advocate for that. I don't know much about that, but what I do know is that when I'm out socializing with people and I let go and I allow the synergistic wisdom of the whole to take over, it feels like I'm flying or like I'm dreaming. I'm in a lucid dream. I can say or do whatever the hell I want, and it works, and people love it. Why? When you learn to pinpoint the mechanisms of inhibition that have been stifling you, when you learn to identify them and then begin the process over time of systematically releasing them, and you make that switch, the feeling for you of this flow through these previously inhibited channels, for you it's this exhilarating feeling. And from the perspective of the people you interact with, the benefit that they get from it is this enhanced sense of human potential that's being conveyed. They're like, wow, this person's really free, maybe in some ways that I'm not. And if I hang out with them, this person, I'm kind of getting a whiff of that. It's like I get to experience that by proxy or secondhand. And maybe if I hung out with this person more, I could be like that too. It's highly attractive. Highly, highly attractive. So again, I'm not trying to get in. I'm not trying to be Mr. Cool and hope people come to me. I'm just like, look, I'm enjoying myself. I'm inviting you to join me here. I'd love for you to join me here. If not, that's fine too. You're not in that headspace. I'm not going to begrudge you of being a boring dumbass. Although just by saying that, it sounds kind of like I do. But, you know, people are where they're at. And they're at where they're at, you know. And you don't know what kind of day they've been having. You don't know where they're at. You don't know if someone that looks just like you fired them or something. You know, this guy looks like my asshole boss, wears the same stupid shirt. Like, how could you know that? You can't know that. This is why I always tell people, they say, how do you deal with the rejection? I don't see rejection. I see lack of chemistry. And I know it sounds like hyperbole. It sounds like easy for you to say, look, I get it. Nobody likes to lose. I don't like to lose. I don't like it. But you know what it's like? I have a baseline. If I get a win, it goes up a little bit. It returns to baseline. If I lose, it goes down a little bit. Returns to baseline. As I said before, I like myself. And as such, if somebody else doesn't, that's their prerogative. Like Bobby Brown. Again, old dated references nobody gets. So Whitney Houston's husband, nobody? Okay, so it's my prerogative. But anyway, so I could do what I want to do. Okay, so I could live my life. So I'm not going to begrudge them of that. Nobody's obligated to like you. You don't like everybody. Why should they like you? Once you have this awareness, you're no longer this helpless victim of your history. You can actually begin to make decisions of your own and move forward in a different direction. But again, it all starts with awareness. Look, how many people in here do a regular practice of meditation? I believe this is one of the most important things that you can do. Because why? You want to increase the amount of time that your mind is spending in useful and productive activity, as opposed to being this judgmental fucking hindrance. When you're out, and what do you have to default to? The boring interview style questions that nobody wants to talk about. Nobody wants to talk about that. That's logic. That's life. You might as well be asking, did you pay your bills this month? Did you remember to pay the bills? Go home, pay your bills. Let's log into your Bank of America app right now and make sure you go to the bill pay section. Listen, it's like, dude, what are you doing? No. Inexpressive face, sad face. We call it sad face. Serious, anxious, deadpan. Serious. Man, this is serious business. This social interaction is serious business. Anxious. Oh, golly, I hope it works. Deadpan. What I don't show can't hurt me. This like grimace of pain. This grimace of pain and shame. Very often, I'll take photographs of the people as they're interacting. I'm like, do you see how you look? They're like, really? Like, that's how I look? Because we can't see our face most of the time. You don't see your own face most of the time. As I said, awareness is the first step. Now, another thing too, by the way, how many people do yoga? That's like a physical meditation. You becomes aware, where are you holding tensions? You're moving in odd ways, very odd ways that you normally wouldn't, to bring more awareness to your physical being. So again, if there's one major tenet, I believe if there's two major tenets of the things that I teach, is number one, tension is the enemy. Tension is the enemy. And no held tension can be justified in pure expression. You might think that tensing up is helping you to express. This is something that we call justification by tension. So, for example, I've talked about this before. I have a friend, my buddy Alan. He comes to karaoke with me sometimes, and he'll sing, and when he sings, he makes these fucked up faces. He'll be like, wake me up before you go, 'cause I'm not planning on going solo. Wake me up before you go. Like, and I'm like, what? Why is he making these faces? Because he's trying, and I ask him this, I'm like, it gives it this weird pinched quality. Wake me up before you go. I'm like, dude, what? He's like, I want it to be emotional. I want the performance to be emotional. I sent this dude to my voice coach as a Christmas gift, kind of an insulting gift. Like, you fucking suck, go to the teacher. And she asked him, she's like, oh, I noticed you're making these faces. Why is it? He's like, I want it to be emotional. I was like, I'll tell you what, as a pure experiment, a pure exercise, how about we just do this? You don't make the faces, and you make a completely impassive face as you sing. So he did that. And he said, I couldn't believe the sounds coming out of my mouth. It was like free now. It's like, wake me up before you go, and I'm not planning on going solo. He's like, he sounded good. I'm like, dude, really? One lesson? Holy shit. Got his money's worth there, shit. But it's kind of funny too, because he'll occasionally go back to that. And so we'll be at karaoke sometimes, and he'll be on stage doing it, I'll walk by the stage, and he'll be like, wake me, and he'll fix it. Because again, we're talking about trying to get rid of decades of conditioning. Now, why does he do it? Now, let's take it back to a more practical application of what we're talking about here. For many people, when they go out, they do a similar thing when they're trying to interact, but they don't make a weird face. What do? They tense up. So when you're walking through, say, the bar, it almost feels like you're wearing this sort of like tight suit. It's like tense up because I need to justify this increased expenditure of emotional energy that I'm about to project through my face, voice, and body. Tense up, but what you got to understand is your attempts to control put you out of control. Your attempts to control are putting you out of control, and you have to give up predictive control to gain in-process control. You have to give up predictive control to gain in-process control. These patterns of control and inhibition that you've adopted your entire life as being useful and necessary for your protection, you got to realize you don't need it. Like I always say, just like let it go, man. Just like let them go. Of course, it's not going to happen overnight. There's a difference between knowledge and knowing. You're not going to drop decades of social conditioning and suddenly become facially free because you now intellectually understand it would be beneficial for you to do so. It's going to take time, it's going to take effort, it's going to take consistent application and introspection and awareness. Now, by the way, like I said, there's a big difference between exercise and performance, right? Up here, I'm performing. This is performance. What does that mean? Actual interaction. It could be singing, it could be on stage, like acting in a play. It could be social interaction. It could be anything. Performance, actual performance versus exercise. So what am I talking about with exercise? Exercise is things that you do. Like, for example, I run this mentoring, right? And we'll do things like various types of improvisational exercises, various types of acting exercises, various peak performance athletic visualization things, various cognitive behavioral therapy things. All of those things are designed to strengthen certain areas in isolation, to diagnose mechanisms of inhibition, to drag them screaming into the fucking light. So you're like, this is what's going on. Because you've held these things to be, again, useful and necessary for so long that most likely they are below your threshold of awareness. You're not even aware of it. And if someone points it out to you, you might begin to become aware of it. And then you can start the process of letting it go. But you've got to shine that light on it. So number one, diagnosing and pinpointed. Number two, once you let it go, then beginning to expand the expressive potential, expand your palette of what you could color with your face, voice, and body. So for example, to give an analogy, let's say you have an athlete, a football player. He might lift weights in the gym. He might run through tires on the field in some kind of agility drill. He's not going to do either of those things in the actual game. But both of those activities are going to improve his capacity to perform in the actual game. Right? He's not going to be running through tires in a grid, but the fact that he did that. So when you go out, I don't want you to be thinking about this shit. Do I have facial armoring? How's my facial armoring? It's like, no, you exercise that in isolation so you can reintegrate those things into a more completely realized whole instrument. And then when you go out, you now have that increased strength or functionality, and you bring that to bear. You bring that to bear on the performance.